A pleasant good afternoon. It's Wednesday, the 9th day of July in the year 2025. Welcome to the APNU Coalition Campaign Update. My name is Christopher Jones, and of course, we're very excited this afternoon because we are joined with or by the Prime Ministerial candidate, Ms. Jurita Fernandez, to my immediate left, and of course, my co-host, Mr. Sherrod Duncan. Pleasant good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, guys.
All right, so I know a lot of you out there, you've seen the buzz, you've heard the excitement, and of course, the election is in the air, fresh off of the APNU Coalition campaign launch. And of course, Ms. Jurita Fernandez just returned from the mining town of Linden, where she was doing some campaign work up there. And of course, Sherrod Duncan just returning from region number 2. Yours truly was various parts of Georgetown, and of course, we made it back here in time for the program this afternoon.
Yeah.
We want to give you some brief updates in terms of what is happening with the APNU Coalition campaign. Sherrod, any introductory remarks before?
But let's start with our Prime Minister, kindly, Drita.
Yes, sir.
Drita was
Yes,
in Region
sir.
7 as well
Yeah.
over the weekend. Drita, tell us a little bit about that, the engagement. I know I saw the photographs and heard the reports. You were on the ground, well received in your hometown. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, guys, Bartica is home, and so my visit to Bartica is not a visit to Bartica, it's just going home. I went home, and it was such a privilege to go on the ground because this is the first time I've had the opportunity to go back home, boots on the ground, since the announcement was made that I'm the Prime Ministerial candidate. So to be able to interact with persons and to share with them what our plans are, knowing that we would have had conversations before, and for them to know now that those conversations led to actual policy formulations. Persons were very excited to know that when we were talking to them before, it was not just a gaffe. It was actually listening to them and just formulating their concern, taking their concerns and formulating policies that would actually remedy a lot of those things, particularly like Bartica is a mining town as well, a gateway to the interior region 7, and there's so much that could be that should have been happening there, and so much that will be happening there after September the 4th. It was such a privilege to be there, and I will be back on the ground in Bartica very, very soon again.
All right. Quickly, I posed the question to former Member of Parliament Nima Flew Best just a couple of days ago, and this was reference to when she at first became an MP. What was the expression, the reaction at that time, and of course her family? And I want to ask you the same question. When it was put to you that the APNU coalition has identified you as the Prime Ministerial candidate, what was your reaction and that of your relatives?
Well, this is it. First of all, I have to acknowledge that this is an opportunity, not just for me, but the representation goes beyond who I am as a person. It is a representation that comes from Region 7's acknowledgement that persons can come out of the hinterland region and be recognized at the national level. It's a recognition for women. It's saying that women have been working, they've been the backbone of a lot of political movements, a lot of social movements and all of that, and women would be recognized at this point. It's a recognition of youth also. Yeah. And more importantly, it's a recognition of Indigenous people in Guyana, because this is the first opportunity an Indigenous persons having to step forward on a platform of this magnitude. So it is overwhelming to some extent, but when you stop and you think about the gravity of what this means, not just to my family, but by my community, to youth, to women, to Indigenous people, when you take all that into consideration, it is a humbling experience to know that my voice is a voice that is out there to represent all of these various groupings of people. So it's important for me to stay focused, stay grounded, make sure I continue to connect with the people, because that's what it's all about for me. And I want to say that politics to me started at the grassroots level, at the local government level in Bartica. I was a councillor at the very first town council, that was the Bartica Town Council. That was 2016, because when the APNU AFC from 2015 to 2020 was in office, one of the first things they did is to bring back local government elections.
Correct.
And I was one of those persons that was identified at that level to be a part of the campaigning process. And today you can see how important that was, because it brought me into a national spotlight, and here I am, prepared, ready to represent, and this is where we're going. We're going full speed down the road to September the 1st, and I know you guys are with us every step of the way, and we appreciate you.
Rita, I have no doubt that you understand acutely some of the issues and challenges the folks in Bartica have had over the last 5 years. I know last time I was there, they talked to us about the housing development that was slowly coming along. They talked to us about the roads, the poor quality of the roads, the construction of the roads, and the roads that the coalition had constructed that were still standing strong, almost spotless, but roads that were built quite recently are deteriorating already, and that perhaps is a concern across this country. Folks also talked to us about a number of other challenges that the township has been facing, seemingly that hasn't had the attention of the government for over 5 years, and this is a government that controls even the local government level there in Bartica. Were those issues resolved? Were they raised as you engaged with persons on the ground in Bartica?
Well, what I can say about the issues that existed 2020, 2021, they were never resolved. They were amplified. And a lot of those issues, particularly when it comes to the distribution of resources from the government, particularly in terms of smaller contracts. And what we have, that is a huge concern and a huge complaint that we have within the region, because you have a lot of persons that, and I dare say, Sher, this is not just in Region 7, Bartica. This complaint is in every other region as well. But I want to dig into a little bit, because it's very important. This is something that we have thought about. We have looked at the issues, and we have crafted policies that is going to address it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a situation in which we have a lot of persons that have a business, a small business, and it's basically a business on paper.
Mm-hmm.
You go and you register a company because you want to be able to benefit from some small contracts. However, the issue that persons are getting now is that for you to get a small contract, you actually have to go and buy the small contract. The system is so corrupt that you have to go out there and pay somebody a bribe, which I would say buy the contract, in order for you to secure this contract. And when you're done securing it, you don't even, the small contractors, the majority of them, and I'm just being brutally honest, do not have the capacity when it comes to the machinery to execute. So what they have to do now is to go and subcontract it to the big contractors because they have the machinery. And the big contractors, they are ready and waiting. So a lot of times you hear the PPP ministers come in and say, oh, we give out 50 small contracts. In actuality, those 50 small contracts may be heading to 5 big contractors instead of being the beneficiaries being these small contractors. So at the end of it all, instead of the small contractors having enough money to reinvest in their business, at the end of it, they barely have enough money to survive and to take care of their families, and again, to go back over from the beginning to have to bribe for a contract. And that is an issue. And it has to be addressed. One of the things that we are looking at and we have proposed in our manifesto is that we are going to be supporting small businesses. We're going to be having a merchant bank come in to deal specifically with entrepreneurs so that there'll be easier access to loans. What we want to do is to move small contractors from the level of a small business owner to a medium scale business owner. We want you to be able to have enough money that you can reinvest in your business, that you can live a comfortable life with your family, and for you to grow. We want to see the small man benefiting from our economy and the resources that we have. So that is a major one. So, and that is a big one when it comes to Bartica also.
Well, the consistent refrain has been for Guyana to grow. PPP
must go.
I'm happy you had a great time re-engaging, and no doubt those of you who are watching us, Drita is going to be across this country, as she did over the weekend, coming to a community near you. And if you guys want to play a part in the campaign, you can reach out to us. We have a role for you to play. Believe it or not, we have a role for you to play. Correct.
But I just want to add in also, because Sher, you did touch on it a little bit. A big complaint when it comes to the regions is housing. Housing is a serious issue. And we have been speaking tremendously, and I believe we need to speak about it even more every day. When I tell you, you tell your neighbor, tell your friends, because this is huge. We are bringing a rent to own housing project to Guyana after September 1st. That is what you will be able to benefit from, because we believe that when we take that burden off of our citizens, of them having to worry about paying a rent or looking for housing, in some situations we have the rental price so high right now on the market that is impossible for persons to actually have their little family move out and live on their own. A lot of persons are forced to be living, with your parents. And so this, we can speak frankly here. We know the challenges and we are addressing it. So the rent to own policy now is going to be saying government will be giving you a finished home. And the rent to own project is not just going to be building houses, it's going to be building communities. We're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about job creation. You're targeting so many things at the same time, because you're going to be needing contractors, you're going to be needing masons, you'll be needing plumbers, you're going to be needing electricians. We are going to be putting Guyanese to work, and at the end of it, persons are going to be benefiting with a finished home. And guess what? When persons are asked to pay a rent, which will be set, that is not going to be a profit motivated rent, because government is not interested in making a profit off of its citizen. We are concerned with making sure that our policies are designed so that you, the people, the ordinary Guyanese that have been struggling, will be able to benefit. So you're going to be asked to pay something that is very affordable every month to be in these homes. And when at the end of that process, the home is yours. This is something that we need to amplify. And I want to add in another one for Bartica. Guys, the policies are so beautiful. They are so exciting that we're going to be taking a whole session with a manifesto launch to bring all to you. But one of a huge concern that we have in Bartica is for the youths and Region 7 in general. We have had young people, putting so much energies and personal resources into sports, and they have not seen the returns for that because they have not gotten the support from government for them to actually grow and build in capacity to represent our country. They have the will, but they are not getting the support. And too many times we have seen them have to go around asking for donation. If they want to have a competition between regions, they are not funded for that and all of that. We have national athletes come from Bartica. We are saying now, as the APNU coalition, one of our policy positions is that once you are a national athlete, you will be paid. You will be paid. So you don't have to go and do a main job, and then at the end of the day, when you come home from work, then you're hurrying, hustling out the house to go and practice. Your job will be to advance and learn your craft, your sport. That is what you'll be. That's what you'll be dedicated to on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, all year round. And this is a huge one for us. We want to make sure that young people are taken care of. Some young people don't want to be engaged in sports. Some of them want to come out of secondary school and they want to move forward and to further their education at some post-secondary level. However, some of them don't know how they're going to make ends meet to get there. So what we have designed in the manifesto policy is that once you have left secondary school and you want to further your education, be it at the university level, a technical training center, or whatever, we will be giving you $50,000 a month to offset some of those basic expenses, because we believe in you, the people, and that is what people-centered development is all about. It's about recognizing the challenges that our people are facing and providing the policy to remedy those challenges, because if we support you, we know you, the people, will become the economic driving force of this country. And our priority is always to give the support to the most vulnerable in society so that they can build themselves up, so that we all benefit from the huge, massive resources that this country has for all of us.
That sounds to me like a people-centered leadership. That sounds very much like that, and it's where we put people first, and that is what it's all about. From last week into this week, we saw a lot of reporting, Chris Drida, on the cost of living and the fact that the cost of food items in the marketplace keeps skyrocketing. Now, this isn't new. There's just an escalation because over the past 4 or 5 years, the cost of living and some of the cash grants that have been rolled out is a direct result of the cost of living, but in a very, very haphazard way, a very cruel way also, because in many instances where the parliament passes the measure in February, it never gets to the people until summer like now or September, October, November, and that is very, very cruel to people who are suffering every single day in this country because of the high cost of living. Now, I heard in your presentation, Madam PM candidate, that under the last administration, $1.2 trillion was spent over that 5-year period. By comparison, the incumbent, they have spent close to $5 trillion. $5 trillion. I am still getting accustomed to trillions. Now, why are people still hurting economically in this country?
Well, Sharon, I want to address the fact first that there is an exceptional increase, an unprecedented increase when it comes to the cost of basic food items. And the first thing that we've been trying to bring this information, we've been bringing the information to you for quite a number of years. From 2020 to now, we've been out there, we've been talking to the persons, we've been shopping in the market, so we know the price for food items, basic food items is going up. However, you will see the PPP administration try to come and counter that to say that, the inflation is not that high. So it's very important that we know that the data that came out very recently, I think it's just a few days ago, came from the Guyana Marketing Corporation. So they cannot come anymore and to argue with the stats. The stat is saying over 70% increase in food items over the exactly.
Somebody get knocked off.
Over 70% increase in prices for basic food items over the last 4 years. And what I want to amplify more is that when you see this, it's important for persons to remember that these indexes that they use to measure the increases in prices, it's a urban CPI, the urban consumer price index. And guys, I want you to follow me, because when you talk about the urban consumer price index, it does not take into account the inflation of food items in the hinterland regions. And it's very important for you to know that, because if you're to go to the hinterland region, and I did make this point as part of my presentation at the launch, if you're paying $400 for a loaf of bread in Georgetown, that price moves upwards. It's going to be measured in the urban consumer price index. So the inflation there is going to be taken into consideration. But if that same loaf of bread goes into the hinterland, that loaf of bread is going to be $1,000 or more for the same loaf of bread. And that is not being measured, because it doesn't, that index that's measuring the inflation doesn't take that into consideration. So it's very important for you to note that whilst person on the coastline and in central Georgia, and so is facing a harsh price escalation, the hinterland is facing it even more. And we haven't seen anything. Government, for example, went to parliament and they talk about supporting this and supporting that. What they always do is channel resources to their friends and their business colleagues to the top, and it never gets to the people that are suffering at the bottom. We look at it in a different way. We understand that you need to be targeting the issues on the ground. You cannot expect, it needs to be policies that have a direct injection into the ordinary man, and how are they to deal with this. You are not going to wait for a businessman to say, the government is giving me a little bit of less taxation here, so I'm going to drop the price for what they're going to say, oh, less taxation, more profit for me.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, guys, we have looked at this. And when it comes to that particular one, I wanted to stress on it a little bit because one of the major policy positions that we're pushing is to bridge the hinterland to the coastland with major highway coming out from after we have the 2025 elections. We want to bridge that gap between the development on the coastland and the lack of development in the hinterland, because all of Guyana needs to be involved and needs to benefit from this, because what that will do, Sherrod, is make sure that the price of item is going to go down. Accessibility, transportations, those are the things that is pushing the price up so exorbitantly in the hinterland, and we are going to be tackling those things as well.
Excellent. So we have outlined for you some of the challenges that ordinary Guyanese face, and the fact that together we are putting you first. In the last 5 years, you've had friends, they've had their times, the favorite, the family and the flatterers, they've all had their time. They thief a lot of the money out, a lot of corruption. It is time for you, the Guyanese people, and what we've been articulating is understanding the challenges, but having the policy solutions as well that is going to better your life as we continue to put you, the Guyanese people, first, and bring you the kind of relief that is not just piecemeal, because we've had 3-4 cash grant distribution exercise, but the Guyanese people are still hurting economically, and more than ever, and those reports that we've seen concerning the rising costs in the marketplace, just a small snapshot of that, as our Prime Ministerial candidate, Rita Finance, have outlined. The further out you go from the capital, is the more expensive things have become. And now we've seen quite a few things over the last few days that concerns us as a campaign, as the Apnu coalition campaign. We saw one minister's son threaten independent media house in this country. This is Juan Edgil Jr. Threatening Big Smith News Update. Big Smith News Update was critical of the seating arrangement at the One Guyana Gospel concert, pretty much saying that he doesn't believe that a Christian concert should have a VIP section, and then he had a tirade, and he was the recipient of some very harsh words from the Minister of Public Works son, Juan Edgil Jr., who I think is a staff of the government too, saying basically the government ought to take a closer look at the operation of Big Smith. Now, this is an independent media house in this country, and this has just been one of several such remarks and actions targeted at media houses in this country. We saw the assault on journalist Svetlana Marshall quite recently, when she was asking President Irfan Ali about the engagement of the lobby forum and the work they're doing in Washington, spreading misinformation to the U.S. government about Guyanese here, especially those of us who are in charge, who are involved in campaigning. We saw also the stoppage quite recently. This seemed like pre-2015 all over again. The payments of ads, government ads to Starbuck News. Starbuck News editor is on record as querying from the president, why was the ads, the monies that were owing to Starbuck News for publishing government ads withheld from Starbuck News. So this is a dangerous precipice that we are going down once more, and the Apnu AFC campaign is very, very deeply concerned about this, about us heading in this direction.
Jurita, I want to take you now to public servants. Now, the campaign stress on putting Guyanese first and the people-centered development strategy. During your presentation at the launch, you mentioned about the income tax threshold being moved up. How does that benefit the average Guyanese out there?
Well, it's not just the income tax threshold being increased. But before you go on to there, I just wanted to just
Edgel,
put one point in when it comes to what Sherrod was talking about, and that is the fact that we have stressed before, and that is and what Sharon explained, there's an example of when it comes to a dictatorial regime. A dictatorial regime, one of the things that they do, a hallmark move of a dictatorial regime is for them to muzzle the media. When it comes to censorship to that extent, it's very important that we continue to monitor it. And there are international organizations that monitor these things as well. So it's not just done locally, because the freedom of press is something that is a benchmark for democracy. The freer press is, the more democratic a country is. So when you know the press is not free in Guyana, you know that Guyana is not a democratic state. And I think it's important for us to know that, because the people like to go out and say that they are championing democracy. There are certain pillars that represents a democratic system, and certain institutions that are in place for a democratic system to be called democratic. And one of those things is freedom of press. So the fact that we don't have freedom of press right now means that this country is nowhere close to a democratic system. So I just wanted to plug that in. But when it comes to the increase in the income tax threshold, Chris, one of the things that persons are very excited about is the fact that come September the 2nd, the income tax threshold will be increased to $400,000 per month. And what that does is to completely remove income tax from the working class of this country. Because like we said, when we think about economic development and to bring our country forward, for you as the people to move forward through a people-centered development approach, we want to be able to say that we have put these things in place to make sure you have more money in your pocket. The coalition government has always had the knowledge, the right personnel to put in place to make sure that we manage inflation. And we will continue to do that. So when you're getting more money, you would not be facing this exorbitant price increase as you're facing right now. So you will be having more disposable income to deal with. What that also says, Chris, when it comes to public servants, is that from the 2nd of September, public servants will enjoy a 35% increase in wages and salaries. We're not saying that you're going to get 35% over a 5-year period.
Right.
We are saying that after the 1st of September, public servants can expect in the month of September their salary to reflect 35% increase. Those are things that are personal to us, because we have heard you. We have been engaging with you on the ground. We have had meetings with you throughout the years. You have been calling for an increase in wages and salaries, and we are here to deliver to you, the people. This is people-centered policies, and we are here to give those benefits to you, the people, because you deserve it.
I want to do a quick recap. So an average public servant, whether a teacher, a nurse, a police officer, once you vote on September 1, the APNU coalition government is guaranteeing you 35% increase on your existing salary.
That is correct.
And not only to that, if you are a public servant and you're receiving, and your salary is all the way up to $400,000 and under, you pay zero tax.
That is correct.
And the APNU coalition,
zero
income and tax. And the coalition government is going to introduce a rent-to-own housing program.
Yes.
So therefore, as a public servant, you no longer have to stand up outside of the ministry and beg for a land, get a land and have to wait for about 3 years before you even see where the land is located. Then try to get money to fill up this swamp, because most times it's be a swamp land. Then try to get a loan from a bank to start construction, in which most cases people take as much as 5 years before they can start that. The APNU coalition government is going to construct these houses like the young professional houses that you see, but you stress on building communities.
Yes.
And you know that a community consists of a play space or a safe zone for children, recreation parks, and so forth. This is coming from the APNU coalition government.
Yes, because this is what Guyanese need. We have to acknowledge when it comes to having economic machinery at play.
Yeah.
the economic machinery that needs to be activated is our people, our
Correct,
human
correct,
resource.
correct,
We
correct.
need to take away the burdens that they're having right about
Yeah.
now, living paycheck to paycheck,
Correct,
trying to make ends
correct.
meet.
Yeah.
We need to empower them, give them that start so that they'll be able to live to their fullest potential.
Exactly.
They'll be able to invest in themselves, invest in their children's
Yeah.
future, educate themselves, educate their children. We want to make sure that Guyanese become the driving force.
Yeah.
And we don't want to go to say that, oh, our alternative is to go import
Exactly.
labor to
Exactly.
our country.
Yeah.
You are our first priority. Guyanese are our first priority. And that is what we will be investing in. That is the people-centered
I
approach.
appreciate that. And the fact that
Putting workers first.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And you have the resources to do so.
Mhm.
Because Guyana is now an oil producing country, but the fastest growing economy in the world. And to date, like we saw the reports coming out recently, but the cost of living is soaring, and the average Guyanese cannot afford to eat. Can't
Yes.
afford to pay rent, can't afford to pay basic utilities, and all the time, and all the while this is happening to some Guyanese, then you have a very small elite,
Yes.
the friends, family, favorites, and flatterers who benefited with $800 million and the like.
Yes.
The APNU is putting people first.
Yes.
Essentially it is the people's time.
This is your time.
This is exactly.
And
This
the
is your time.
Exactly.
And the people have been responding, and that is why I think part of why our prime ministerial candidate has such a fantastic welcome in Bartica back
Yeah.
to her hometown. I know the guys were out at the Bacchus yesterday. Some folks were at Grove. Well, the teams are working countrywide, but we're just picking out a couple of them, and to say kudos and to keep on working hard. When we leave this broadcast, jackets are off and we're on the ground too, boots on the ground. But that being said, the campaign, this is the Apnu Coalition campaign, wanted to point out another deeply alarming concern that we have, and this is the erosion of political neutrality in this country in law enforcement, and also the rise of the intimidatory tactics by the PPP government, the incumbents. And we have seen it as this campaign has started. And over the weekend, we have noted what has taken place at Wiki Kalkuni. Now, we want to put on record that the Apnu Coalition campaign believes that all protocols should be observed when entering our indigenous communities, those reservations especially, that all the protocols that are in place for entry into those communities are observed. But we also believe that intimidation and the stomping on a party's paraphernalia, be it a flag or a ripping down of posters or tearing down a flag from a lamppost, those things should not happen. And we want to sound the alarm because we understand how desperate this government is, that we are now in full campaign mode. And folks, we are getting to 100%, and you will see so much more coming out of the Apnu campaign in the days ahead. They're going to get even more desperate, this PPP incumbent government. And so we want to put a notice the international community that this should not only concern the international community, but every Guyanese at home and abroad, irregardless of political affiliation, that such acts are no longer isolated, but we see them happening, folks. The intimidatory tactics of the PPP and their goons, folks, there have been reports of harassment and intimidation and disruption of opposition activities, whether it's in Essequibo, Berbice, or even in interior communities. And silence and inaction of the authorities in the face of these repeated transgressions suggests incompetence, but in addition to that, complicity. And we have been hearing that instructions have gone out from Freedom House to the authorities that should their supporters, this is the incumbent supporters, be involved and be the perpetuators of these actions as they have been, that the police and law enforcement should not intervene. Let us make it clear. The Apnu campaign calls for the immediate investigation into these reports, and we urge all of Guyana. We urge also the Guyana Elections Commission, the Ethnic Relations Commission, and our international observers to closely monitor this evolving situation. The Apnu Coalition campaign, we believe very strongly that democracy cannot function where the state's protective agencies are seen to operate as political shields. The integrity, Guyana, of the September 1 elections and the broader democratic process must not be sacrificed at the altar of partisan loyalty. And this kind of intimidatory tactics that the PPP is well known for must come to an end.
So,
Well, what I can say is that Guyanese have gotten some bit used to the PPP's bullyism when it comes to election time, and it will not be accepted. This is something that we will be putting our feet down when it comes to that. And I think that the very fact that we're sounding the alarm now is just putting the PPP on notice in a kindness way that it will not be tolerated. We will not tolerate at any point in time, any part of this country, intimidation tactic coming from the PPP to our politicians on the ground, to our activists on the ground, to our people and supporters that are on the ground that are doing the work to make sure that you are removed from office.
Correct. As we wrap up, folks, the green team is going to be coming to a community near you. Look out for us. Please come out and say hello. We have nomination day is upon us. Chris,
On
you can tell us a
Monday.
little bit more about that. Our team is already in line. First in line, Shannon Smith, Daniel, and team.
Yeah.
There at the Umanayana. Chris?
Yes. So as it stands, on Monday, the 14th of July, is going to be nominations day. And of course, the APNU coalition delegation will be assembled at the corners of Main and Lamaha Street. And we ask persons to join us there at 8:15, because the contingent is going to move off shortly thereafter to take our list of candidates to the Umanayana, where we will be presenting our list of candidates there. And of course, in the coming days, there will be public meetings and, of course, a major rally. And that pronouncement is going to be done on Monday after nomination day. Persons who are still desirous of getting T-shirts, the place for those to be had is at Congress Specifier. If you are in a particular region, they are the APNU coalition offices. Those offices are open, and you can make contact with those persons there. Submit your size, whether medium, large, XXXL, and so forth.
Yeah.
And those T-shirts are available.
Yeah, it's the hottest commodity. People
It's the
want
hottest
people want a piece of the green.
Exactly.
People want some
Literally on the Square of the Revolution, you had thousands of T-shirts that were distributed there.
Yes.
Some persons who were just literally heading to their particular region or whatever, they stopped and collected theirs and so forth.
Yeah, and Chanel was reporting to us that all day yesterday and today on the site there at Umanayana, people have been stopping by and asking for T-shirts.
Yeah.
People want T-shirts, and we have a good problem. We don't have nearly enough
Correct.
to give out, but we're going to try to keep one for you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you in your communities, in your villages, in your towns, folks, in the hours ahead, in the days ahead. And I think the final word goes to our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jude Finance.
Well, what I want to say is, guys, you will continue to see us on the ground. This campaign is not just this election is not going to be won only by social media. It's going to be won by knocking on doors. So you look forward to seeing us. Look out. You will see, once you see that wave of green coming through your street, you know that we're out there. Come out, interact, ask your questions, get acquainted with some more of our manifestos, commitments. These are not promises. These are commitments that we're having and we're making to you, the people of Guyana, through our people-centered development strategy. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you, and you will see us
and
back here.
Just before you run out,
this is not a final word.
I noticed our colleagues, Region 3 coming on board more and more. And two of our colleagues joined from Region 3 just today. Two more just today.
Yes.
This is Gangade Lloyd and
Surat Singh.
So
we said welcome aboard.
Welcome. We got some green saved for y'all.
All right, folks. So those shout-outs are the final words to PM. Forgive me, it's just inclusive. This has been another edition of the APNU Coalition Campaign Brief for Wednesday, July 9th. And of course, we invite you right back here tomorrow, the 10th, on the topic, facts, not flags. Facts, not flags. On behalf of my colleagues and our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Finance, we bid you adieu until tomorrow. Goodbye for now.